Hi everyone, welcome back for another live. In this live we're going to talk about is anxiety your friend or your foe? And it sounds like an interesting question because today's world, what you have is you have a sense of anxiety. You know, everyone kind of says that anxiety is a problem, right? You'll have an anxiety disorder, you're anxious. It sounds like it's a problem, you know. Sometimes, you know, as someone's a life coach psychology person, if I say, it sounds like the kid or someone's being anxious, everyone kind of freaks out. They're like, I don't have a problem. I don't want to be called as even having anxiety. So it's been so shamed and demonized in our society, anxiety. So the question becomes, is anxiety something good or bad? And I think it's a really important question to explore because I think societal precepts or notions always point to a sense that it's really bad for you and it's a disorder and it's a problem. You know, you also have, let's say, people say, there's nothing to fear but fear itself, right? It tells you that fear is bad. And this question, actually, if fear is good or bad, is actually a broader question, which is, are things that have negative emotions, is shame, aggression, anger, guilt, regret, are any of these negative emotions considered to be good or bad? Because I think there's an overall approach that people have in their entire lives where they're trying to just get rid of all their negative emotions, right? You want to just always feeling happy, always feeling positive, grateful, hashtag thank you Hashem, etc. And those things are positive things. But the question becomes, is this something that's good or bad? Are negative emotions good or bad? And I think that if you approach things from a Jewish perspective, we know that the word for character trait is midah. It means a measurement, right? And it also means a character trait. So all character traits, everything in our lives, whether mental health or character and everything, is good in the correct dose, in the correct context. Everything we are given to by Hashem is a gift. It's a blessing that Hashem granted this blessing into our lives. Now, just like anything can be used for good, can be used for bad, right? If you get a wedding present of knives, you could go and kill people, God forbid. You could hurt people with a knife. Does that mean that knives are a problem to be solved? No. The knives are supposed to be used as they're intended, and if you do so, then it is something that is positive, it's something that's good, it's something that's adaptive for you in your life. But yes, it's ultimately a blessing. So is it neutral? In a sense, it is neutral, but ultimately it's a blessing because it's given to you for a purpose that's supposed to be so good, but it can be abused in a way that was not intended for it to be used for bad. Everything can be like that. And everything needs to be used in the right balance. And so let's apply this to anxiety. Anxiety is a blessing, right? We know that people who don't have pain receptors in their body, they're very likely to die very early in their lives. And the reason for that is because, let's say they're putting their hand down on the oven and they don't realize that their hand's getting burnt off, right? They can have their hand on a fire, they could... they're freezing cold or they're boiling hot and they don't know that there's a problem. They could die of hypothermia, burns, etc. Pain is a communication. Pain is not the problem. It's not the problem. It can be a problem. It's not the problem. Pain is the communication of a problem. Negative emotions are always a communication that is paired together with it's a communication for change that's paired with pain. Pain is the motivation and the energy, and the emotion itself is that kind of like the advisor. It's telling you what to do to get you to that thing. So let's just go through a few examples here. Let's say you have anger. Anger comes always, people call it a secondary emotion, but I think that all emotions are secondary in the sense there's always a pain that's driving every emotion, negative emotion. I should be clear. Every negative emotion has pain that's guiding it. So when you have this negative emotion, it always has the pain. Now the pain is the energy and motivation, and the emotion is the advisor. So the anger is telling you to stand up for yourself, to be assertive, to not allow an imbalance in a relationship to continue, to not allow an injustice against you to be perpetuated. So that is what the anger is trying to resolve for you. And it's using the pain of feeling embarrassed, humiliated, etc., or just, it's using that pain energy to push you to listen to its advice, to listen to its suggestion. And the pain you will be feeling, by the way, that level of energy will be directly proportionate to the level of importance it is to that emotion. So if you have a severe imbalance in a relationship, the level of anger will be proportionate to that. But it's not really the level of anger that's changing. It's really the level of energy of the pain behind the anger that's changing. The emotions communication, its advice to you, actually will likely be very similar to what it was beforehand. But what's changing is really the pain and energy that's guiding it. So this is where we're dealing with over here. We're dealing with emotions. Pain is the energy, motivation, the emotions giving the advice. Now, when we're listening to the advice, if we're listening to our internal world, there's this cacophony of voices that are all yelling and screaming, and they're all trying to grab our attention. They're all demanding that we adhere to, listen to, respect, receive their needs. So how do we balance them all? So this comes to a very important skill set that many don't try to even attempt in their lives. Most people, when they feel anxiety, as we started off, their knee-jerk reaction to that is to try to shut it down, to reduce it, to repress it, to really just get rid of it. It's seen as a burden. It's seen as a problem. But the truth is that just like, as we said, any other trait, it's meant to be used for good. And we're saying that pain keeps you alive. It helps you survive. And it's really only time that pain is the problem and fear is the problem, or any negative emotion is the problem, is when it's in excess. When you're allowing it to dominate too much of your internal world. So your internal world is meant to be balanced with many negative emotions, but probably about an 80-20 rule of 80% positive emotions and 20% negative emotions. So if you go to 100-0 in any direction, you're facing a severe imbalance that, if you're just positive emotions, you won't survive in this world. You need those emotions to keep you alive. Negative emotions are protective. They help you survive. Positive emotions can reinforce certain other positive habits and perspectives, etc., and keep you in a state of joy. A lot of other things that will be very helpful for you. And you have 80% of yourself is supposed to be like that, but another 20% is supposed to be negative emotions. And if you do too much of negative emotions, you create misery, you get burnt out, you get drained, you get depressed, etc., burnout, etc. So the point is that we need to figure out a way of creating this 80-20 balance. The 80-20 rule, it's true in relationship with yourself. It's a true positivity to negativity, 80% positivity, 20% negativity. It's true in your relationship with others, 80% positivity, 20% negativity. And it's true in relationship with Hashem, 80% positivity, 20% negativity. I think, again, it's not a rigid rule. It's dynamic. It changes based on circumstance, etc. But it's really important for us to kind of stick to that type of frame of how when we're approaching our negative emotions. And here's why. Because if we just go in either extreme, we either, we won't survive in this world, or if we don't have our negative emotions, if we have too much negativity, it creates dysfunction, it creates misery, etc. So really, not really able to function in either extreme. So let's figure out, how do we figure out when is our anxiety right and wrong, and when do we kind of repress it, and when do we supposed to bring it into our lives? Because there are times where we should repress it. Again, if the imbalance, if we're like 50% positive, 50% negative, there is some degree of repression and pushing away the negativity, or humor, or diffusing it in some other way to bring you back into equilibrium, into the homeostasis of that 80-20 rule that you have with that relationship with yourself. So how do we go about this? So I call it, you create an internal meeting. You are the leader of your own internal family. Every part of yourself, all of your negative and positive emotions, every single aspect of yourself, we're part of this loving, beautiful family that each serves a function, each serves a role. And like any good leader, there's a balance that you need to achieve. Not just between positivity and negativity, but as a leader, you need to balance all the parts and keep them all feeling loved, respected, valued, etc., trusted. And you're doing that for the sake, number one, is just like a people's skill, if you will, just to keep them happy. But there's really something really important reason why you're doing that, because you're trying to genuinely to do that to get their feedback, because you value what they bring to the table. So it's not just kind of like a gimmick. Oh, if you do this, then your negative emotions won't bother you anymore. No, you're curious. You want to understand your negative emotions because you have humility, and you understand that there are a lot of things that are not in your conscious mind that may need to be, and they may be offering you something that you may not have noticed. And that is their job. Their job is to bring you things to the table. Fear protects you from potential threats. Anger against injustice. Shame against violating your own values. The list goes on and on. Negative emotions serve a very adaptive function when they are in balance, when they are in sync. And so here's what we do. Every time your negative emotion wants to talk, you don't always want to listen to it. But let's say when it gets really loud, right? The negative emotion is getting loud. So now you do need to listen to it. And you hear it out with respect, with love, with appreciation, with curiosity, and with humility. And you're not just listening. It's like kind of like when a kid, like a parent tries to hear out a kid, and the kid's like, parents like, yeah, get through it, get to the end of the story. You're not really listening. You really need to listen with a genuine curiosity and respect and love, etc., trust. And you can't fake that. So you're not doing this as just as a gimmick to get the anxiety to shut up, right? Or any negative emotion to shut up. You're trying to. It's your friend. You engage with it like it's a person. It's a family member. And when you engage with it in this way, you fully hear it out. If it gets kind of loopy, you could tell it it's done and move on to the next emotion. And when you go through all the voices inside of yourself that are being loud, you hear them one by one, and you get them to slowly diffuse their energy, and then you hear everything they're saying, and then you find a compromise. So let's give an example of what that can look like in a very practical way. Right? Let's say you're studying for a college, an exam or something, and you're trying to figure out, is this anxiety that I'm feeling adaptive or not? So let's do a little internal check, right? If you don't study for this test, let's say there's no threat, right? What is the threat in this situation, right? That's what fear is trying to protect you from. So what's the threat? The threat is failing school. What will happen if I fail school? So then my job prospects go down. My wife or husband won't respect me as much, etc. There are a lot of threats on the horizon here. If I fail this test, fail the course, fail college. So what do I need to do? So there's a real threat here. Now, is the fear that I'm feeling proportionate to the situation? So if I'm having a panic attack, obviously that level of fear would only be appropriate if someone's like about to kill you or something like that. That would be a fear that's proportionate. So if you're like having a panic attack, that fear is in excess, and that fear needs to be reeled in, not shut off, because there is a real threat here. It needs to be reeled in, and this is what internal leadership looks like. A lot of the extremes, the polarities, are not what real, strong, robust greatness or leadership. That's not what great leadership does. That's not what great leaders do. They don't just shut down the people that they don't want to hear at that time, even when they're in the wrong. What you do is you need to find a way to speak kindly to them and speak with love and respect. So how would I do that? So I would say to fear, listen like this. You're telling me right now I should get paralyzed and get stuck and not do any studying right now, because the fear of the studying is you're saying I should just do nothing. Okay, you know what? That's not going to work. We have to you're making a good point that there's this big threat here. So what we're going to do is we're going to sit down, we're going to hammer out of studying for an hour or two, then we're going to take a nice long break, right? Because there's another voice inside of me that's like, this anxiety, it's telling me to study, it wants me to stay up all night studying. So we can't listen to that advice. Mr. Anxiety, I love you. Thank you so much for this input. Because of what you're saying, I'm going to make sure to put in more studying than I would for a test like this, because I'm not familiar with this content. I don't know it so well. But I'm also going to integrate some of my other voices, like the voice that says I need relaxation, the voice that says that tries to balance work with, tries to conserve your resources, right? There's some aspects of yourself that wants to kind of rein in, not always just be putting out all your energy all at once. So this is a really important thing. We're trying to find this internal leadership of showing love, respect, trust, etc. At the same time, integrating it. And part of this process is trying to clarify. It's telling you its advice. You don't always need to listen to its exact advice. And this is a really important point. Usually you won't be listening to its exact advice because you're going to be offering a compromise between all of your parts that are activated by the experience. And all those parts could be like the laziness part, the anger part, the shame part, the fear part. And then there could also be the gratitude part, etc. So a lot of things can be activated from the same experience. So what we need to learn to do when we're in these situations is to hear them all out with love and respect, and then we don't listen to any one of their direct advice. What we're listening for, and this is the idea of being a good listener and a good leader, is you need to hear the underlying need that lies behind what it's communicating. So let's give an example on a business setting, right? Let's say you have the accountant. The accountant's like, we shouldn't really be spending any money in marketing. We can't really afford any of these, this new custodial fees, etc. So you have all these things. Oh, someone says, this is great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. right? You have all these, so the account is saying to cut back spending in all these areas. What is the actual communication? What is he actually trying to tell you? What he's actually trying to tell you is that you need to balance your budget. That's really what he's trying to tell you. But he's not necessarily using those words. He's maybe saying something that would be more an extreme version. A way to completely fulfill all his full dream would be, let's say, to run even as a surplus budget. But that may not be practical for you because you may need to, invest in growth in your business, etc. And now you want to heal the custodial staff, and they're like, we need to be, we need more staff on hand. We want to really clean the bathrooms more and more, and this and this and this, right? Really, what's the underlying communication? They're saying that this building isn't being cleaned in a way that would represent a professional business. So yes, you need to increase it, and to a degree. Now they are saying you should clean it maybe every single day for, a few times a day. That may not be realistic. That may not be practical. So this is where you listen to all the voices. You need to hear what's behind it. What they're saying is this building should be professionally, have a professional club level of cleanliness to it. Now, the extent that they go is going too far. So again, you're not listening to their exact advice they're giving you. You're listening to hear what the underlying need is. What's the underlying communication? And that communication is what you're integrating into this grand compromise. And this ability to hear out all your voices is such a critical skill set for so many reasons. One reason is because if you don't, here's what can happen, right? Here's what's going to happen. The voice will it's kind of like a little bit like a baby. You have raised a newborn. Thank God I recently had a baby boy, Baruch Hashem, full of gratitude, full of love to Hashem for that. An awesome blessing. When that happened in my life, you have a baby. In the beginning, the baby, let's say, starts doing this with its mouth when it wants a feeding cue. It goes like this. Or it opens its mouth. It starts, thank you so much. Right? It's trying to do all these different things. And then it starts to get it starts moving around its body. It starts kicking a little bit more. And it starts grumbling a little bit, and it's starting to do these little small things that are letting you know that it's not happy. Now, if you keep ignoring it, it's kvetching, and then it escalates the kvetching to minor whining, crying, and eventually it's in a full-on frenzy when you could sit there and bring it up and down, pat on the back. It will not be placated. It will not be pacified, even with a pacifier. Nothing will work. It is in a frenzy. So this is what happens when the same thing happens with our emotions, right? If we just ignore their emotions, they will originally give you, if you are able to be proactive and listen to them with respect and love, etc., when it's still going like this, right, with its mouth, right, and then okay, I need to feed it, I need to address it. Then you're not waiting until now you have a full-on anxiety attack, a panic attack, whatever it is. Now you hate this. Now you hate your baby, God forbid, because it is daring to not be placated. It's not, even when you're giving it what it wants, it's not happy because it's in a frenzy. It's in a full-on tantrum mode. It's not in a state of calm. It doesn't trust you that you will meet its needs because you waited until the only way it was able to get your attention was to do the most extreme thing, to put you in such a state of severe discomfort. And this is where we're able to create a calmer sense of equilibrium, where we're not just going back and forth between our polarities of calm and panic. Because then that's not an integration of these inner parts of ourselves. That's not what it's looking like. That's not a true balance. That's not a homeostasis. That's like a bipolar disorder. You're going one thing, you go to the other extreme. Manic, depressive. We don't want that. What we want is when it's in that initial phase of warning you and letting you know you're feeling a minor anxiety, don't just swat it to the side and repress and try to shut it off. Your first tier response to anxiety is not repression. It's not denial. It's not humor. It's not breathe in, breathe out. It's not going for a workout. Your first tier response is hearing it out with love and respect. And trying to figure out what's the underlying need, not what is it telling me to do, what's the underlying communication, what threat is it alerting me to? And then you integrate into your decision what it's telling you to do. Be proactive, don't wait till it accumulates. That's no way to treat your internal family, that's no way to treat your internal friends. Treat it just as you would interpersonal relationship, it's intrapersonal. Interpersonal is the same way for the intrapersonal. For every part of yourself, your fear, your anger, your shame, all of your negative emotions which have pain associated with them, which makes us not like them as much, we need to learn to give them the love because they are so helpful in our lives. And whether you give them the credit for that or not, they give you so much good. They give you so much importance. They protect you. They keep you alive. And again, we like to just swat that aside, just coping mechanisms. These are all ways to avoid their communication. And this is such an important idea, the idea of there's a symptom. Don't blame the pain for the problem it's telling you about. When you bang your elbow, is the problem the fact that there's pain in your elbow? No, that's not the problem. The problem is your elbow is damaged now to a degree. Again, your elbow is healed. God, Hashem made us in incredible ways that we're able to heal naturally, etc. The bruise is not the problem. The problem is the fact that some of your blood vessels are popped, and now the bruising is a form of trying to heal from it. Do we see that the problem is this is such a mistake that we make between the symptoms, the core communication, and we make the pain into the problem. Pain is not the problem. Pain is the messenger. Negative emotions are not the core problem. They can become a problem in a person's life if they're in the state of imbalance, but they're not the problem. The problem is that you're not listening to your threats in your life. You're not getting along with yourself. You're not giving yourself that love and respect. And not just when I say yourself, I mean different parts of yourself. Because they're not comfortable communications. We're not interested in hearing them. And we just want to live in kind of crisis mode of when it swings back and forth and different parts of us grab control, kind of grab the mic. It's kind of like these chaotic meetings. Everyone's grabbing the mic. No, you want to, where each one could wait their turn. Do you know why they'll wait their turn? Because the past 10 internal meetings you had, you made sure they felt loved and respected. And even when you didn't listen to them, what they wanted, they know that you truly value what they're saying, and they know that you're going to address their needs in the long term. So then they have that trust. And if we want to gain the trust of our internal parts, we need to, number one, be proactive. We need to treat them as we were a friend. Don't swat them away. Don't wait till they're in the wailing, tantrum, frenzy mode. Be proactive, address them right away, treat them with the utmost love, trust, and respect. And if we do so, imagine a relationship where you need to hear the word anxiety and freak out, have fear of your fear, right? And be like, oh my gosh, I have anxiety. Anxiety it's not a crisis. Anxiety is a natural way. It's a blessing. It's a way we stay alive. It's the way all our negative emotions are like this. And imagine a relationship you're able to have with yourself, where you're able to accomplish this, where you're able to take yourself and love yourself, and you're not pretending and like hashtag thank you Hashem, hashtag love yourself, hashtag this, oh I love myself. No, you don't love yourself because you don't listen to a word your negative emotions say. A true, genuine love, a love because you love them, they are a part of you, and you love them for the function they provide you. This tremendous benefit of certain needs that you yourself would have no hope to be conscious of all of them at once. But luckily for you, you have these advisors, friends, and internal family, all these countless parts that are all there for you and all will advocate for the needs that you would otherwise neglect. And without them, you would be in the state of misery. And yes, we need to find this balance, this 80-20 balance. And yes, we sometimes need to use humor, denial, repression, all these other tools that we use to try to rein in some of that negativity. But this is what being a leader is about, is finding this balance. And if this idea resonated with you, I hope. So anxiety is our friend. It can be our enemy, but it's not trying to hurt us, right? It's our enemy in the sense that we need to find a better balance for it, and we need to find a way, usually, of treating it better. So if any of these ideas resonate with you, I'm on OKclarity's website. I also have CoachBensonFox.com. You could feel free to sign up for a free session. I'd be happy to try to even apply some of the ideas we're saying from this live stream into your personal life. It's idea, obviously, I'm very passionate about this idea. I think it's a big core missing part of how most therapists and life coaches engage with other people. And let's make anxiety your friend. Let's make all your negative emotions your friend. Let's do it together. And I can help you with that. And if you'd like, so you can sign up for the free session at CoachBensonFox.com, or you can go on OKclarity. Again, I'm happy to offer you a free session. Mention this live stream on it, and you could get an extra 15 minutes. I'm happy to do that for you guys here today. Check out Jewish Men for Joy, Balance, and Growth. That's my Facebook group, where you could also get a lot more of this type of content. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for being a part of this here today. Really appreciate all you guys coming here today. And I'll see you on the next live stream. All the best, my friends. All the best.